say that what we're witnessing today is actually an intention from the Lord and a purpose from God that is manifesting. And I will encourage all of us to add our weight to support the mission of this movement. Because, you see, when we study the Bible, movements are of the Spirit of God. But when movements become forms, they are man-made. For example, when the apostles met together in the upper room, the Bible says they began to pray, and the Holy Spirit came and empowered them, and they started reaching out. Peter stands to answer a simple question on drunkenness, and before they realized, 3,000 people have committed their lives to the Lord. That was a move. It was expansion. I got to a point that the move had to become a form. So we see forms around that we call technically denominations. God will move because he sees limitations with a particular system, by particular manifestation, and he wants a better one to take over. So we see the early church, Peter and Co had the move of the Spirit, and then after a while, you see people identifying with leadership. Someone will say, as for me, I belong to Apollos. Someone says, I belong to Paul. Someone says, I belong to Cephas. So this time, instead of the movement, we have forms, we have personification, we have denominations. So this one will say, I am a Methodist, I am a Pentecostal, I am an Anglican. As for me, I'm an evangelical. That is not important. God's desire is to make a move. God's desire, I think the battery, I'm using this. But the enemy subtly uses a certain way to make us comfortable, so that instead of moving, we stay in one place, excite ourselves, enjoy ourselves, and we say we are churching. When you look at the focal point of Acts chapter 1 verse 8, Jesus said that you will move from one place to the other and be my witnesses, my proof producers. You will go and be my testifiers. I personally believe that Apostle Paul was moved to persecute the church because they were comfortable in the upper room. So if you do not respond to Acts 1:8, Acts 8:1 will act on you. Hallelujah. So my duty is to talk about the role of the church in nation building. The role of the church in nation building. We are looking at a paradigm shift, a shift in paradigm. When we talk about paradigm, we are talking about a fundamental model, a view, either it's a worldview, a belief system, or a value system. Why are you here? What has convinced you to come here? It's a paradigm. What makes you think that what we have gathered here to do here will be successful? It's your paradigm, it's your perception, it's your view. So if we're talking about a shift, we're talking about moving from one place to another, moving from one dimension to another. So looking at a paradigm shift for the church in this world, we are saying that the church is becoming too comfortable. The church is becoming too okay and is doing nothing. Sometimes we meet 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Like in my case, I went for an all night. We were 2 speakers. By the time we got there, the first one was almost done. He handed over the mic to me. He said, also, you have 3 hours. Tell my voice in the side. You don't have good speakers, you don't have good sound. And so you are forced to strain your voice. Now, in these 3 hours that we have gathered, what shifts in the atmosphere? What changes in the atmosphere? How are people informed? How are people inspired? How does transformation take place? The church today is in serious crisis. That is, in my view, that needs serious address and serious recourse. So to be able to know or understand the role of the church in the nation building, we have to first and foremost understand what are the building blocks of a nation. There are people who have been able to propound theories. One of the theories is what they call the 7 mountain of culture theory. And these were sociological anthropologists who studied the trends of societies. How are societies formed? What goes into a society? If we say this people group is a particular society, what are the features? And they were able to find out that there were 7 major features that runs through all societies. And the first is the family system. The family system. When we look into scripture, we will see that God started mankind's system with a family system. The unit of a man, Adam. I've always been telling people that just being a male does not reflect the image of God. And just being a female does not reflect the image of God. It is both the male and the female fused together. That is the image of God. He created them male and female in his likeness and in his image. We have a generation where people get up and they say that women do not even have the right to preach, because we think that the one who has the right to preach is the man, and the man is the dominant image of God. It's never true. The man, the male figure alone, can't be the image of God, because he made them male and female, and that is his image. So the family system becomes the basic unit of society. Then when you have looked at the family system, the next thing you also have to consider is what we call the financial system. Man has to have a form of economic transactions to be able to express himself. And when you look into scripture, you will see the serpent talking with Eve. Some people have argued that the husband was not there. Others are arguing that the husband was there. But when you study actually Genesis chapter 3, you will see that after the woman had eaten, the word of God says, and she gave to the husband who was with her. So that tells you that up until the time that Adam ate, he was around and was quiet, observing Eve answer the serpent. The serpent took the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I am of the view that from scripture, the tree has 2 dimensions, evil and good. But it's not just evil and good, but the knowledge of evil and good. And we are told that this tree was good for food, and it was able to make one wise, and it was pleasant to the eyes. So that means that the serpent was actually marketing the good side. Because if it had been the evil side, Eve would quickly have said, I don't need this one. And the transaction that went on because economically they were defunct. When Why were they defunct? God said to them, Adam, dress and keep this garden. Then he came back and he said, of all the trees in the garden, you may eat, except the one in the middle. This is what I concocted. God is saying to Adam that make sure that by the time you get to the tree in the middle, you are already full. Because he said, of all the trees in the garden, you may eat. So it means that eat first before you get to the one in the middle. They did not eat. So when they got to the middle, it was easy for the serpent to transact because they were defunct in their economy. So we need to be able to understand that the economic situations of the people define society. The third point is the educational system. Now, how do we socialize the younger generation? That is why for me, this particular conference is very important. And it shouldn't be a one-day wonder or a 9-day wonder. It should be something that after today we should be sitting there and thinking, when is the next one happening? How are we going to get more people involved? How are we going to get this thing be pushed across? Because I personally perceive that it's a movement. And I started by telling you that movements are of God. So the educational system is key. In the Jewish system or the Judaistic system, the moment a child is born, from the very day the child is born, the child is socialized into the doctrines of the Jews. So the mother will recite favorable or favorite scriptures to the child. Even though the child does not understand what is happening, she recites because it is believed that the memory of the child is playing. The alpha and the beta memories are playing. So whatever you introduce to it, the consistency of it gets written on the memory. So that by the time the child is 3 years old, the child is made to start learning the Torah, learning the writings and that of the prophets. So that by age 9, the child is able to recite out of memory. So that by age 12, the child is graduated. So that means that if the child stands anywhere, that child should be able to recite the law, the prophets, and the writings of it. But what do we see today? How do we socialize the younger generation? We push the younger generation to the formal system, which is designed and built by the devil. And then they go through till their minds and memory are formed with foundations that are very hard to uproot. And then we allow this person to have an encounter with God and expect that after an encounter with God, all those foundations that have been built in the brain and in the mind by just one encounter will clear off so we can build another foundation. It doesn't work like that. So the education system is very, very important. Number 4, our arts and entertainment. The forms of socialization manifest in our various ways of entertaining ourselves. How do we entertain ourselves? What have we placed value on? In some societies, that you go into one society and what you believe to be right may not be right with that society because their norms, their normative practices are different. When you go to America, somebody greets you with the left hand. Hi, good morning. It's okay. But when you come here, you wake up, you are passing, somebody said, "Boss, how are you?" You go not serious here. In some cultures, whether you greet somebody good morning or not, life goes on. But in other cultures, as long as you are young, when you meet the adult, you must greet. And if you don't do that, you are recognized to be what? Insolent or disobedient. So our system of acculturation is very, very key. Sometimes when we study the Bible, we look at the Bible only as, maybe like our MC said, he placed his head on the Bible and was thinking, and you get some rhema. So sometimes we look at the Bible as our source of rhema. Some also say, oh, as for the Bible is my source of logos. Some also say, as for the Bible is my source of grafu. But one aspect of the Bible that we have to look at is that it must become our source of sperma. And you hear a lot of preachers talk about, oh, the written word, the inspired word, the spoken word, but they hardly talk about the seed word. Mark chapter 4, Jesus said the sower went to sow seeds. And the seeds that he went to sow in the verse 12 was the word. So the sower sowed the word. But it's interesting that logos was not used, rhema was not used, graphe was not used. The word that was used was sperma. How are we culturalizing the younger generation? What do we get our form of entertainment from? What defines our arts? There are societies that when you come into contact with, what they define as culture and they define as fashion may be totally different from what you define as fashion. That is coming from where you're coming from. Today, our main traditional form of fashion is lost because we are moving all the way from the east and we are going to the west. When we are supposed to be looking at the Bible as an Eastern book. So the arts and entertainment also form part of the building blocks of a society. Now the fifth pillar is the form of media. The form of media. How do we pass our information across? How are we getting information from one place to the other? They say the world has become a global village. As we're speaking here, maybe with the instrument that is before me, the camera, if we are on live, people are watching from other places without having to transport themselves to come here. How are we using the media as a tool to be able to pass information across? How are we doing that? The other pillar of the society they came up with is the religion, the religious form of the society. Every society that you ever come into encounter with or you ever meet has either one or more forms of religion. One or more forms of religion. What makes us as Christians to think that Christianity is better than Islam or better than Hinduism or better than even free moral thinking or better than scientific lifestyle? What makes you think that what you have upheld or what you have your faith built on is better than someone's? So the form of religion is key. And to put all of these together, you have a society. Now when we read from Isaiah chapter 2, from the verse number 1 to 5, it says, in the last days, the mountain of the Lord's house will be exalted above all other mountains. And all the other mountains, the question I want to ask is this: How many of our teachings focus on empowering the people to take a domineering or dominating place as far as these mountains of culture are concerned? How many of our services are tailored at empowering someone financially, or tailored at empowering someone educationally, or tailored at empowering someone religiously? And when I use the word religiously, I'm using it advisedly. Before you come and tell me Christianity is not a religion. Hallelujah. Whether you agree or you don't agree, any form you have to fill that is formal and public, you will see Christianity under religions. What faith do you belong? Or what is your religion? So I'm using it advisedly. I'm not using it technically. When you say, oh, it's a religious church, but I'm a spiritual church. That's what I'm saying. So how many of our churches are designed to empower people to take a place as far as the arts are concerned, entertainment are concerned? Because the truth of the matter is that if I build a gadget, if I build an object, I have to write the regulations and the rules by which the object must be run. So if the object is built by the church, chances are so high that the regulations will be from the church. But if the object is built by the world, chances are that the regulations, the rules will be coming from the world. As I stand here, I'm just informing you that if the church can take its position, then the church must be in the helm of affairs as far as these 7 building blocks of society are concerned. The church must take interest in the economic affairs of the nation. The church must take interest in the political affairs of the nation. This is the time that we as ministers, we have to learn by the inspiration of the Holy Spirit to teach our people, to teach our listeners, to teach our hearers that they must be empowered to take a domineering position as far as these 7 building blocks of society are concerned. Until we do that, the church is going nowhere. I read a bit of history. I read a bit of politics in the university. And I was told that when Kwame Nkrumah realized that he was going to take over the leadership of this nation, the first group of people he appealed to was the church. He went to the church and he spelled out his manifesto. This is the plan I have. This is the agenda I have for this nation. Can you help me out? Can you guide me? Tell me the way forward. Instead of the church leading him in the way, the church was interested in the money it was going to get from him as the president. How can the nation be listening to a prophet or an apostle or a pastor or a teacher who is going to the state house to beg for money, who is going to the state house for audience, when the state house is supposed to be coming to the church for leadership and direction? So we need a refocusing, we need a re-engineering of our minds. And I believe that some of these fora will be a very great tool to help us achieve some of these things. If the church must be the mountain above all other mountains, then the church must have what it takes to attract. It must have what it takes to influence. It must have what it takes to inform. It must have what it takes to inspire. It must have what it takes to transform. Sometimes when we organize services, the focus is how much money we'll get. The focus is not how many people are going to be transformed by the service. I was listening to Pastor Benny Hinn. He says, anytime I see souls, my heart beats for salvation. John Avanzini said, anytime I see souls, my heart craves for money. So they are seeing the same object, but the focus of what they are seeing varies. And I won't go to church, and the crowd have come to church. Sometimes when you attend some of these our maybe wedding services or funeral services, that's when that local church uses it as an opportunity to raise funds. Before they do a tackle, they will raise funds. You give offerings like 4 or 5 times because in the crowd I heard. But what is the church doing in bringing about the mind of God in colonizing this earth? We must stand tall among all other building blocks of society. How can I become a great politician sitting under a pastor who knows next to nothing about politics? How can I become a great educationist sitting under a man of God who knows next to nothing about education? How do I become someone who God will use to influence others in the entertainment world, in the arts field, when I'm sitting under leaders who do not even see the importance of the arts, of entertainment? How can I be an influence in my society when I'm sitting under a man who does not place any value on the family? He treats his own family anyhow, and therefore he expects that you treat yours too anyhow. Brothers and sisters, as I bring a presentation almost to an end, I want you to understand that God wants us as the church to represent him here in enforcing and fulfilling his mind concerning the earth. When he gave the Israelites a promise through Abraham, and then it was time for them to move from Egypt, because a lot of things had happened in Egypt, to the land of promise. You realize that the land of promise was constituted by 7 different cultures. If you are familiar with scripture, Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 1, you will see all the names of these cultures: the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Hittites, and all what have the Jebusites, and all what have you, the Gigites. You will see that these 7 cultures represented the 7 building blocks of society. This is God's plan. The people of Israel went as a few in number. They were not the group that had the largest number. They were very few, because on their way from Egypt to the promised land, all the adults from 20 and above, they died. So the younger ones from 20 and below were those that were able, together with Joshua and Caleb, they were able to possess the land of promise. And when they got there, they were expecting that God would wipe out all these 7 cultures. But God came to them and told them, if I wipe them out at a go, which will be an easy thing for me to do, the animals on the mountains, on the sides, will come and consume you. So keep them around you and then grow with them. They grew with them until the Israelites had to take over everywhere. If the church can rise as the light that it is and begin to shine from the direction it has been placed, then we will come to a point where even though darkness is stronger, darkness will not be able to overcome the light. The Lord bless you.